Hi, I'm Dr. Polly Watson. I wanted to take a minute and introduce myself and tell you a little bit about who I am and how I got here. So, a huge motivator for me to pursue medicine happened really through my mom when I was in high school. So, my mom was 38. I was maybe in early high school. And my mom started going through menopause, what now we would call premature ovarian failure or early menopause. So menopause before the age of 40 is a little bit more unusual and definitely warrants some health intervention. So here's mom at 38, and she was going to her doctors, and her doctors were telling her that absolutely, she was not going through early menopause, and this was not happening because she was simply too young for it to happen. And it was unbelievable to me how hard they dug in their heels without doing any testing or any intervention. And just surely based on the fact that she was only 39, this couldn't possibly be happening to her, even though she had all of the symptoms of menopause and had stopped having her period. So at one point during some very frustrating medical journey, I went to the doctor's appointment with my mom. And I remember sitting there and being almost embarrassed for the healthcare provider. He was so emphatic and he was digging in so deep and he was a little combative and a little bit argumentative and he wasn't listening. And I just remember at that point thinking, okay, I've got to go into medicine. I've got to serve women. This is absolutely unacceptable. And I knew I could do better, which isn't saying much because at that point, the bar was really low. So my mom was a huge motivator for me to go into women's health. And I was pretty focused on that even as a high schooler. I had some really fantastic teachers in high school that were super encouraging, and one was pregnant and suggested that I pursue midwifery. And one of my other teachers hosted a science club. And this is how cool my high school was, right? Like these teachers were opening up their home at night after hours to us to help us learn outside of school. I was so fortunate to get to go there. And so the science teacher's name was Sharon Radford. And I was at science club at her house, and the wife of the presenter was some scientist from the CDC. And the wife of the presenter was a midwife. And so I sat by her and I started asking her questions. And I didn't really get I was only in high school. I didn't really get like the politics of birth and kind of the philosophical differences between midwifery and being an obstetrician. A lot of that went over my head. But as a high schooler, I remember having that conversation with her and kind of leaving that conversation and thinking, oh, no. If I can't finish the job, I don't want to start the job. If something bad happens and someone needs a C-section, or for whatever reason, they need a C-section, I don't want to abandon my patient. I want to be able to do whatever they need. And so at that point, I really kind of got the ball rolling for me to go into OBGYN. And so I was on that path. An undergrad, briefly, I had a stint doing some neuroscience research studying programmed cell death and brain development. And it really took one spring break week where I was alone in the lab, cutting up rat brains and staining them and realizing that I really needed other people to fill up my bucket. And I was not cut out for bench research. So I went to medical school and I did my training at Mercy Hospital in Chicago, which has since closed. Mercy was, at the time, the oldest hospital in Chicago. It was a Catholic charity hospital. And we served a lot of the underserved in that community. And I was totally a fish out of the water. I was a girl from Georgia on the south side of Chicago, and I'm not Catholic. but I feel like we really got excellent training in high-risk obstetrics. And I think we got excellent surgical training for advanced disease. We were seeing people that didn't have a lot of access to healthcare. So often the problems they would come in with were quite advanced by the time they received healthcare. What was missing from my training, and unfortunately, I think all these years later, is still missing from a lot of OBGYN training programs, family medicine programs, internal medicine programs, is a formal menopause curriculum. And so even though my mom's menopausal experience was a huge driver for me to go into medicine, I didn't get great menopause training even as a women's health expert as an OBGYN. And so I finished residency and I'm trying to get pregnant. Of course, that's not working. And I'm working pretty hard and delivering a lot of babies, which was fantastic and an absolute privilege. And then finally, about 3 years after graduating from residency, I got pregnant and was able to have my son. And I pretty much was kind of missing out, I felt like, on his early development. The nanny would say, "Oh, he's about to walk," which was really code for he walked and you missed it. And I think he's about to talk, which was really code for he said his first word today and you missed it. And so my first child was not a great sleeper. I was not a great sleep trainer. So I wasn't sleeping at work. I wasn't sleeping at home, and it just wasn't sustainable for me. So I hung up my obstetrician hat really early in my career and just decided to focus on gynecology only. And then at that point, because I wasn't delivering babies, because I stopped doing major surgery, I was really able to focus on developing those areas of my education that hadn't been attended to in residency. So I started doing training with what was then called the North American Menopause Society, getting vulvar dermatology training with the International Society for this, the ISVVD, which is International Vulvovaginal Disease Society, and then also sexual medicine training from ISWISH, which is International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health. So sometimes I'll meet women and they'll be like, "Why doesn't my gynecologist have all this training?" And I want to defend your gynecologist for a minute and say, I was really able to develop a lot of these other areas because I wasn't delivering babies, because I wasn't learning cutting edge robotic surgery, right? The scope of what I was then practicing was much more narrow, and I was really able to concentrate and focus and develop a skill set in that area. So the second kind of part of, who am I and how did I get here is that I'm also 50 and I'm going through this with you. And I get so much from my patients in the camaraderie, in the opportunity to offer them a different way to conceptualize menopause transition. So I often meet women in this moment of extreme frustration and loss of control, right? What used to work to get us back on track for wellness isn't working anymore. What used to work to help us lose some weight isn't working anymore. And a lot of us are used to being in control, and losing that control is very destabilizing. And so I see menopause transition as this catalyst to really create some space for health creation, acknowledge that what used to work doesn't work anymore, and be so intentional about health creation for the second half of our lives. And if we can adopt a growth mindset, if we can stop kind of kicking around the quicksand and the quagmire of it's not working anymore, and say, cool, it's not working anymore, I've got to find a new thing, then I think menopause is this extraordinary opportunity. And I would also argue that I really want us as midlife women to lean into all of the wisdom that we've gathered to get to this point, right? So at 30, I wasn't nearly as good about setting boundaries to protect my time and my mental health and my sleep and all of those things. I am so much better equipped at 50 to make changes in my health, to make changes in my life for health promotion. And I think you probably are too. So I really want to offer a menopause or midlife as this catalyst to create what we need for the second half of our lives. And I see that as something that's really positive and hopeful. And I'm not sure that a lot of the conversation around menopause is positive and helpful. So I'd really like to offer that optimism in this space. So we've talked a little bit about who I am and how I got into this part of medicine. And I think the next thing I'd like to talk about is just why do we need a revolution in menopause? And so we're in this really interesting moment where the New York Times is publishing all of this great stuff on menopause, and Michelle Obama is talking about menopause, and all of a sudden menopause has become unstigmatized, which is great. Unfortunately, women are trying to re-engage with the healthcare system, and the healthcare system hasn't been adequately trained in menopausal medicine most of the time. And so women are leaving that healthcare interaction super frustrated and often not getting their needs met. So in this mismatch of a whole lot of menopausal popularity and not nearly enough education, support, and time in the conventional medical space, the marketplace has exploded with potions and lotions and gimmicks and supplements and whatever that's going to be your perfect absolutist solution. And I would really like to create a space here for discussion of complexity and nuance, and trying to get away from some of these absolutist claims and have a little bit more realistic conversation about what might work for someone and what might not work for someone else. I think that a lot of the claims that are being made are these really absolutist, one size fits all recommendations. And I don't think there is a one size fits all for menopause. What I think is missing in this space is discernment and a conversation and a willingness to stop trying to sell you something and talk about the complexity and why something may be a really great option for one person and a really terrible option for someone else. So I'd like to create some space so that we can embrace complexity with a growth mindset. We can approach this with curiosity and hopefully some optimism. And then also, the revolution happens when women are at the center of their health creation, where the health creation is not coming from without. I think hormone replacement therapy is fantastic. I take hormone replacement therapy, but it's not the only thing that is needed for menopausal health. We want to shift the emphasis from health coming from without of you to health coming from within you. Health is something that you create every day with lifestyle choices and balancing your blood sugar and exercising and having an active stress management program. And hormones and supplements and all kinds of other things may be part of that, but it starts with your lifestyle. And so I would like to again, offer a space where we can have complexity and nuance and allow for a little bit more in-depth conversation than just trying to sell you the next potion or lotion, and shifting the power dynamic to help you be at the center of your own health creation. Another thing that makes me a little bit different in this menopausal medicine conversation is that while I'm trained as an allopathic regular doctor, OBGYN, I've also completed functional medicine training and certification through the Institute for Functional Medicine. And so when a lot of women are really frustrated in the conventional space, there are a lot of folks in the holistic medicine space that are filling up that void. And sometimes patients may feel, or women may feel like they're kind of a wishbone at Thanksgiving with two kids pulling on either side of that wishbone, where their doctor is telling them that all of these supplements and nutraceuticals are a complete waste of money, and nutrition doesn't matter. And they're presenting one end of the conversation, and the other end is being pulled on with a lot of supplements and a lot of nutritional advice, and no one seems to agree. And the patient really feels like she's stuck and she's in the middle, and she's feeling like she's being pulled in too many directions. I would argue at midlife, we're all being pulled in a lot of directions. We don't need to be caught in an argument between our holistic medical provider and our conventional medical provider. So I have done training in both functional medicine and in regular traditional medicine. And I would like to offer a bridge between the two. I am not coming from everything in the Western medicine world is bad and everything in the holistic medicine world is good. I think we can definitely live in a space of both and what I'd like to offer is, because I have training in both, to try to help you discern some claims that are made by both sides, and again, find a place to balance out those claims in the middle. I think both sides have something to offer. We want to practice evidence-based medicine. Unfortunately, we don't have nearly as much research in menopausal medicine as we would like. And a lot of it is not done for the duration that many of us are going to choose to take our hormones. So if you choose to join me on this journey as your guide to navigate this conversation on menopause, I want to help you discern both holistic claims and conventional claims, and hopefully serve as a bridge to sort of bring you the best of both of those worlds. Thanks for listening to Menopause Rescue. If you're looking for a menopause expert and live in North Carolina, take our free online class and see if we're a match for your needs. It's called Are We a Good Fit? And is a quick and easy way to learn more about our practice and what it has to offer.